So, welcome to today's lecture. In the previous lecture, we had started looking at the graphs of functions. We looked at the graph of a constant function. Let us go to the next step of looking at a function defined by y equal to mx. So, or f of x is equal to mx. So, f of x is denoted by y. So, one normally writes it as y equal to m of x, where m is a fixed real number. So, one would like to know what is the graph of this function. How do you visualize the graph of this function as a set of points on the plane? Remember, we had done an association. Every ordered pair x comma y was identified with a point on the plane with x axis, y axis as the coordinates as x comma y. So, let us try to identify what is this set, the graph of the function f as a set of points on the plane R2. So, for this, let us first observe that for x is equal to 0, mx is equal to 0. So, the point 0 0 belongs to the graph of the function. So, the graph of the function includes the origin 0. So, let us look at any point, any line in the plane which passes through the origin, because origin is on the graph, and if in our equation, in our function x is equal to 1, then 1 comma m also is a point on the graph. So, our graph is going to pass through 2 points. Let us test the possibility that our graph is a line passing through the point 0 0 and the point p, which is 1 comma m. So, let us call this line as m, and let us take any general point q on this line and find out its coordinates. If q is a point, then on this line, so let us take q. If the q coordinate, let us say the coordinates of q are x comma y. We want to compute y in terms of x. So, let us look at these two triangles QCA and PAO. So, what I have done is I have drawn a line here parallel to the x axis, and this is a line which is parallel to the y axis, and they meet at the point B. So, let us look at the triangles QCO and the triangle PAO. So, this small brown triangle and this big triangle. So, these two triangles, claim is that these two triangles are similar because this angle is common to them, and this angle is 90, this angle is 90. So, these two triangles are similar. Since these two triangles are similar, the sides must be in the proportion. So, that means if I look at the ratio PA by AO, that ratio is m. So, that must be equal to the ratio QC divided by CO, and that ratio is y by x, because q has coordinates x y. So, from this we get that y must be equal to mx. So, y must be equal to m of x. Thus, every point on the line has got coordinates x comma mx, or equivalently we can say that this is also, this identifies with the graph of the function because of the unique association of every point, the ordered pair x comma y with the point with coordinates x comma y in the plane. So, this shows that the line L is the graph of the function y equal to m of x. We can go slightly ahead and look at the function which is given by y equal to mx plus c. So, if we compare it with the previous function, this is just y equal to mx plus c. So, that means what? For every value of x, whatever was mx, c is added to it. That means y is the y coordinate is being translated by c units. So, we can just look at the dynamic aspect of geometry and say that the graph of this function is also called linear function. So, the graph of this function is nothing but it is the graph of the line y equal to mx shifted along the y axis by c units. So, let us just have a look at the graph. So, this is a line y equal to mx plus c. So, if we drop c, this is the line y equal to mx. This is going to be parallel to this line, and what we have done is we just lifted up, we have translated this graph up by c units. So, depending on c is positive or negative, this will go up or down. So, this is the graph of the function y equal to mx plus c, and this graph is, this function is called a linear function. So, it is given by y equal to mx plus c. So, as you have realized, there are two important numbers in this, one is m, other is c. This number m is called the slope of the linear equation, or geometrically the slope of the line y equal to mx plus c, and c is the y intercept. That means the graph passes through the point 0 comma c. So, this is the graph of that function y equal to mx plus c. Why this m is called the slope? If you recall in the previous thing, in the previous picture, we looked at the point P, right. So, this was the point P. So, for this line which is y equal to mx, if this height is equal to m and this distance is equal to 1, then this is the line. So, as you can see, if m increases, so if m increases, this line will tilt towards more towards y axis. So, the inclination of this line, or there is more slope for this line. That is why this number m indicates what is called the slope of the linear equation, and c is called the y intercept. So, this is called the slope intercept form of the linear equation, because m denotes the slope and c denotes the intercept. One can also geometrically, if you look at a line, then one knows that there is one and only one line passing through 2 points in the plane. So, that fact we can utilize. So, let us take 2 points on this line y equal to mx plus c and try to see what we can say. So, let us take x1 y1 and x2 y2 be 2 points on the line y equal to mx plus c. Then, because these 2 points lie on the equation y equal to mx plus c, we must have y1 is equal to mx1 plus c. So, x1 y1 satisfies the equation y equal to mx plus c, and similarly x2 y2 also satisfies the same equation. So, y2 is equal to mx2 plus c. So, from these two equations we can calculate the value of m and c. One way is we can subtract this equation from this equation, so c will vanish and we can calculate the value of m, and put the value of m in any one of the equations and get the value of c. So, we leave it for you to simplify and see that from these two equations, if you calculate m, that comes out to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and the value of c in terms of x2 y2 x1 y1 is comes out to be this. So, one can write down the equation of the line y equal to mx in the form y is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 multiplied by x plus c, and see the value of c as calculated above is y1 minus y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 into x1. So, this form of the linear equation, this form of the line is also called the 2-point form of the line y equal to mx plus c. The 2-point form tells you immediately what is the which are the 2 points through which it is passes, or it can be used to write down the equation of a line passing through 2 points, either way. And you can also calculate the slope and the intercept from the values of the points x1 y1 and x2 y2. So, this is normally very useful in writing down equations of lines. So, what we have done is we have drawn the graph of a general linear equation y equal to mx plus c. Let us see how linear equations or linear functions arise in the study of economics, commerce and management. So, we will look at some examples in the language of economics and so on. So, let us look at the first example. It says a manufacturer of music players will like to know the following. There is a manufacturer who is making music players, and he is interested in knowing that what will be the effect of 5% increase in the price on the demand. If he increases the price of the music player by 5%, what will be the effect of this on the demand when the current music player price is 9,000. So, at present when the music player is selling for 9,000 rupees per music player, if he increases the price by 5%, how much will it affect the demand? So, he would like to know that. Will the effect be same if the price of the music player say is 12,000? See, so what he is interested in is when the music player is selling for 9,000 and there is an increase of 5%, whether the demand will go up or go down. That is one question. And the second is when the music player is selling for 12,000, at that price if he increases the price by 5%, what will be the effect of this on the demand of the music player in the market? So, to answer these questions, we have to first know how is the demand and supply related to each other. So, let us say we know that the price and demand function is related by this equation. So, that is a linear equation. So, P is the price and Q is the quantity demanded. So, this is related by this. Okay. So, this is a equation. How is that equation coming? We are not really at present interested in modeling. We know that the manufacturer says that this is a relation with it. So, P is the price per unit and Q is the quantity demanded. So, this is a linear equation in the variable P and Q. So, the price is a function of the demand Q. The 5% increase in the price at when the price is 9,000 means, so what will be the increase in the price? 9,000 is at present the price of the music player, 5% of that is 450. So, that is the increase in price delta P. So, that means, so and also you know the delta P by delta Q, right, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 is the slope, and for this the slope is here is a linear equation with slope as minus 5. So, that means the change in price divided by the change in demand, which is equal to mathematically equal to the slope, is given by minus 0.5. So, that means the change, if we take it on the other side, so that means delta Q, there is a mistake here. The slope is y2 minus y1, right, that is okay. So, there is a mistake here. So, that means we should be dividing by, so delta Q is delta P divided by minus 0.5. So, when you do that, so increase is delta P is 500. So, here is a typo, it should be division. So, that should be division. So, forget this step. So, from here delta Q is delta P divided by minus 0.5. So, that is here. So, that means this is equal to minus 900. So, that means if when the music player is selling for 9,000 rupees, there will be a decrease in demand because delta Q is negative. That means there will be a decrease in demand by 900 units. So, now let us calculate the 5% increase when the music player is selling for 12,000. In that case, delta P is 5% of 12,000 is 600. So, we calculate now delta Q, it is delta P divided by that percentage. So, that is minus of 600 by 0.5 and that goes up to 1200. So, that means there is a decrease in demand by 1,200 units. That means, in this scenario, as the price of the music player goes up, any increase will make the demand will make a decrease in the demand. So, thus in this model what we are saying is one has to analyze at each price the corresponding change in Q. At each point P, value for P, even if the price increase or decrease is same, the value of the effect on the demand is different. So, at every point P, we have to calculate what is the change in Q. So, the question arises, can we have a number, some numerical value associated with the demand function that will measure the responsiveness of the quantity demanded for the same price change at various levels. So, what we are saying is we are given the demand and supply function. We are looking for some characteristic, something that we can say will indicate how much the demand will change at different price levels. So, to answer this question, naturally we have said that the slope of the linear function is not a suitable measure for this. So, if slope is not the suitable measure, what it could be? Another reason why the slope is not a useful measure of responsiveness is that the equation, demand and supply equation, depends upon the units used for the quantities, the item being produced or demanded. Let us look at an example and illustrate this. Consider a price and demand function of say cement, which is given by the price is equal to 500 minus 50 times Q. This is again a linear price demand relation where Q is measured. It is cement being sold. So, cement is sold in units, let us say it is metric tons, and P is the price in rupees per metric ton. So, P is the price per metric ton of the cement. So, unit for the quantity is metric tons and the price is per metric ton. So, this is a relation. Now, let us suppose we change these units from metric tons to something else. So, here is a change, suppose we change the units. So, we measure Q instead of metric tons, we measure in kilograms. So, in case you do not remember, 1 ton is equal to 1000 kg and the price is measured in per kilogram. So, we want to have a relation between P and Q where P is in price per kilogram and Q is in per kg. So, let us see the conversion. So, when P is 100 per ton, so it is 0.1 rupees per kg. For 200 ton, it is 0.2 kg. 8 it will be. So, Q quantity, it is 8 ton, that is 800 kg, and for example 6 ton it will be 6000 kg, because 1 ton is equal to 1000 kg. So, once you do that, we convert the relation. So, thus the price and demand equation becomes P is equal to 0.5 minus 0.00005 Q. Here Q is in kilograms and P is price per kilogram. So, this is what the equation becomes, and now you see the slope here has changed to this, because the units have changed, the slope has changed. Now, both the equations represent the same price and demand function. This also represents the same price and demand. The original also represents the same price and demand, but in different units. So, that means now the slope is different. So, what I am trying to emphasize is that for a linear function, slope cannot be taken as the measure of responsiveness, how the price and demand will change. If one is changed, another is observed. So, if slope is not the measure of responsiveness for change, what could be? So, it's more natural to expect that the percentage change in demand will be proportional to the percentage in price. In that case, the unit is gone from the scenario. So, if you look at the percentage change in demand, a price changes from P1 to P2 and we see the percentage demand, percentage change in the price, and correspondingly compute the percentage change in the price of the demand. So, then the two are independent, the two quantities percentage does not depend upon the units. So, and it is more natural to assume that in a price demand relationship, the percentage change in demand is proportional to the percentage change in price. So, this is represented mathematically as saying delta Q by Q, right. If at a price Q, delta Q is the change, right, price is changed by. So, delta Q by Q is the proportional change, right. So, and the units will cancel out each other. So, claim is that this should be proportional to delta P by P multiplied by 100. So, this is the percentage change in the price, this is the percentage change in the demand, and we are putting a hypothesis that this should be so, this should be proportional to this. So, that means what? So, that means we can, if we want to remove this proportionality, that means mathematics says the proportionality, constant of proportionality, if it is C, then delta Q by Q is equal to delta P by P. Then that relation will hold for that constant C, and that means we can calculate C from here. So, C is equal to delta Q by Q divided by delta P by P. So, that is equal to delta Q by delta P, right, and this goes up, so into P by Q. So, the constant of proportionality is the change in Q, the change in demand divided by the change in price multiplied the price at that stage and the demand at that point. This is a constant which is independent of units. This constant is called the point elasticity of demand at the price P. So, this number C, which is given by at a price P, we know the demand price demand function, we know Q, and if there is a change delta Q, will give you the change delta P. So, this is called the point elasticity of demand at the point P, and is denoted by the Greek letter epsilon with a lower d. That way epsilon indicates the elasticity and d denotes the demand. So, there is a price elasticity of demand defined by delta Q by delta P into P by Q. So, for a linear function, if the demand function, price demand function looks like P is equal to minus A minus BQ, right. So, that is the price demand function. Then we know that delta P by delta Q, okay, is nothing but minus B, that is a slope actually. So, that gives for a linear function, the coefficient of elasticity is nothing but minus 1 over B P by Q, right. So, which is a scalar that indicates ratio of percentage increase or decrease in price at price P, right. So, that indicates that if there is this is the ratio of the percentage increase or decrease at a price P to the percentage and decrease in demand at that price. So, this is the coefficient of elasticity for a linear model of price and demand linear model. Okay. So, where the price and demand is this, okay, P is equal to A minus BQ. Right. So, let us make an observation that this number P is positive, price is always positive, quantity is demanded is positive. Okay. The number B in the equation is positive. Okay. So, in the linear equation, demand and supply equation, B is positive. So, all this quantity being positive, epsilon D is a negative quantity. So, it lies between minus infinity and 0. So, this only says that epsilon D coefficient of constant of elasticity is always negative. So, depending on what is the value of epsilon d, it will. So, let us just look at a few cases. Let us look at case 1 when epsilon d is between minus infinity and minus 1, it is negative. So, as epsilon d moves away from minus 1, what will happen? As it moves away, the demand becomes more and more responsive to the price, right, because it is equal to delta P by. So, keep in mind what is the coefficient of elasticity. It is minus 1 over B P by Q. Okay. So, as it becomes more and more towards minus 1, that means what? That means B is fixed, right. If it has to become towards more and more negative quantity, that means Q should become smaller than P. So, demand, so that indicates that Q should become bigger than P at a rate much faster. So, so it becomes, demand becomes more and more responsive to the price. So, for example, 5% increase in a price at minus 2 will give you 10% decrease in the demand. Okay. Because if this is 2, so that ratio is equal to minus 2, so it is double. So, thus the region where in minus 1 to 1, one says demand is very elastic, it is more responsive. So, one says demand is very elastic. When it is between minus 1 and 0, this is a situation when the price change is less than percentage change in the price, because it is between minus 1 and 0. So, that means the demand is inelastic, it does not really affect the price much. And so, this is the situation when it is on this side, right, then it is very responsive, and it is not responsive at all. This is called this point equal to minus 1 is called the unit elastic. Finally, when it is equal to minus 1, as we have said, it is the unit elastic change in price. So, for a linear model of price and demand, we have tried to define a notion called coefficient of elasticity or constant of elasticity for price and demand. And as it turns out, for a linear demand and supply function, this is always a negative quantity. So, when the value is less than minus 1, it is very elastic. When it is between minus 1 and 0, it is highly inelastic, and at the minus 1, it is unit elastic. So, we will continue the study of such things more in the next lecture.